Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy. Jimmy on the beat, boy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gin College Podcast. My name is John J. II. I'm here with my co-host, Cody Almasy. Cody, how are we doing today, buddy?
Doing good, man. Just hunkering down for some pretty intense storms the last couple of days. Anybody who lives in southeast Michigan like I do, hope you guys are being safe. The power outages aren't causing too many inconveniences. I know that DTE is notoriously incompetent, so my prayers are out there with you. I'm wishing you guys the best. Happy we're able to get the show up and running tonight. Bring you guys the last show before kickoff. So we really wanted to make sure that we got it in tonight, and we're able to talk about some of these games that are going to be on before the next time me and John talk. So I'm over the moon, man. We leaped the obstacle that was put in front of us, faced the adversity like some of these teams are going to be facing soon, and here we are.
That's right. We weathered the storm, and it is storm season. I remember back in the day, I think it was 2 years ago, there was a microburst that hit the mid-Michigan area, actually the city of Flushing, where I'm currently living now, and it was very destructive. It happened all at once, and we're in that season right now. So we're weathering the storm, and this is the calm before the storm too. So the real storm hasn't really hit us yet. It will this weekend, though. So we're excited about that, and we got some games coming at us tomorrow. So it's exciting stuff, man. I'm excited, and I know you're excited. And like you said, next time we talk on this platform, there's already going to be scores in the wins and losses column. So we're going to be looking forward to it, and we're excited to bring you guys another show. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about Michigan State and Michigan. Now, obviously, this is the discussion that had to happen, and we kind of set it up this way where we're going to talk about every other conference, in the college football sphere, and then we're going to rotate our way methodically into the Big Ten, which is becoming a powerhouse of a conference, to say the least. I mean, that's basically an understatement of what the Big Ten is becoming right before our eyes. We're seeing it happen. We're seeing super conferences align, and there's possibilities and potential for every team out there in the FBS. So I'm looking forward to it. But let's just get right into it, Cody. Tell me
Yeah,
about your Michigan Wolverines. Let's go into that a little bit. Let's talk about Harbaugh. Obviously, there's
definitely.
a lot to unfold here. So
Yeah,
let
we've
me hear what
slowly
you got.
worked our way through all the Power Five conferences, and saved the juiciest steak for last. As we started here in Michigan, based in the Midwest, and that's where a majority of our viewership is. So save the best for last. Our two teams, Michigan State, and John just asked me about the Wolverines. Jim Harbaugh, maybe fielding the best team that he's had in his tenure in Ann Arbor, and the expectations are sky high. I pose this question for myself: is anything besides a national championship acceptable for Michigan, its fan bases? And my answer is no. We need to go get that natty this year. Um, I mean, winning in the first round it would feel okay, but it still would feel like coming up short if we don't just bring. We have the team to do it. We have the schedule tailor made. Georgia's going through a bit of a transitional period with Stetson Bennett leaving, Carson Beck moving in. So now is the time to strike. The iron is hot. That team is loaded. You have J.J. McCarthy. Um, he's off to the NFL next year. Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards. Those are two NFL running backs. So they'll be probably doing damage on fantasy squads next year. Uh, Mark my words. I'll say that confidently. They're both going to be playmakers in the NFL. And so next year, it's going to be a lot of rebuilding, and some spots will be reloading because Michigan is getting to that point in recruiting and level of consistency and talent. But they're never going to have an opportunity like they have right now, especially with the NCAA expected to come down on Jim Harbaugh for the recruiting infractions. A lot of Michigan writers, our whole fan base, kind of ran away with the narrative that it was just about a cheeseburger. It's a little bit more than that. He got caught in a sticky situation. It's kind of maneuvered the truth a little bit, if you will, navigated the facts in his own way. Hasn't taken much accountability. Now Michigan is self-imposing a 3-game ban, but those 3 games are pretty much cupcakes. And the original deal was for 4 games that the NCAA and Michigan had agreed upon. Uh, NCAA kind of backtracks out of it, wants to investigate further, and seems to me like deal out a harsher punishment than 4 games. So self-imposing uh, 3 to me doesn't make too much sense. Maybe they're just trying to lessen the blow, or maybe Michigan, our fan base, our brand, we just think we're untouchable to this kind of stuff. And now the NCAA with NIL, all this kind of stuff seems to be a little bit of a farce of, you know, a league in the way they punish people. Reggie Bush just came out that he's going to be suing the NCAA for defamation. And, when these kind of stories break with their track record, they're just not going to be taken as seriously as they once were. And it almost seems like they're a little mad at Jim Harbaugh and Michigan for kind of just brushing this off to the side, not taking it too much to heart, not taking accountability. And yeah, they're going to come down on them a little bit stricter next year. And who really knows what's going to happen? A lot of local radio networks, 97 won the ticket. A lot of those guys speculating again that he might try to go to the NFL, or who would want him in the NFL if he did. What's the future look like for Jim Harbaugh? And all I have to say about that is He does his own thing every year. He is not your typical coach or person for that matter. And Jim Harbaugh is going to do what Jim Harbaugh is going to do. And we're just going to have to kind of live with the aftermath like all the other teams he's been with before. And hey, I'll take it. 2 CFPs in a row. And if we lose 2 games this year, that's going to be a disappointment. So when you're going into the season with those kinds of expectations, that level of talent, and your ceiling is that high and your floor is that high, really, I'll take it, man. I'll take the Jim Harbaugh era for what it's been, and whatever happens, happens.
So everyone knows that I'm not a Michigan fan. I hope everyone knows that. But I have said and stated publicly that Jim Harbaugh he's definitely my top 3 most prominent coaches in college football as we know it today. So Jim Harbaugh, you said it perfectly, Cody. Jim Harbaugh is going to do what he is going to do, and no one's really going to stop him. No one's going to contain him and put him in a box and say, hey, listen, Jim, this is how you're going to do things. This is what's going to happen. He's going to do things his own way. And we've noticed that. We've seen that happen time and time again. And I think that probably adds to his likability, but also his hateability. It's one of those guys. He's almost like the villain that you hate to love, but you have to at a certain extent. He is a perfect coach for Michigan. I've said that also time after time. But I think if you have to embody, and once again, I'm saying this as a non-Michigan fan, as a Michigan State fan, quite on the contrary of a Michigan fan. But if you have to embody Michigan and, their football program over the last couple of years, especially last year, looking at last year and that close loss to TCU, you can only really, embody it by one saying, and that is unfinished business. You bring up this season, he has to, they have to get the job done. And that's really the only threshold that they can really reach. And, I guess making the final game could be one too. But if the Michigan fans are thinking, if we can make it to that final game in the CFP in the last year of the 4-team format, then we might as well just win it all. So, and I completely agree. If you have the ability to make it to the CFP, you have the ability to make it, to the finish line and win it all. So if you're there and you're present, you're expected to win it all. Michigan fans expect nothing less. So
you bring up a great point, just real quick, saying the last year is the 4-team format. That's huge because, they're just going to be looked at a little bit differently, and it'd be awesome to have one under the belt. So, hell, go and get it.
Exactly. That's right. Let's pull the graphic back up. I'll talk about my Michigan State Spartans real quick and look at that. Expectations for Mel Tucker after a 5-7 season in 2022, 11-2 in 2021, which is somewhat of a miracle record in 21. Just looking at Michigan State, obviously they're in rebuild mode. I would go out on a limb and say Mel Tucker is somewhat on the hot seat right now because Michigan State is a win now program in the Big Ten and in the Power Five. To be able to win and to be able to succeed against the best of the best in the league, not only the conference, but in the league. So, we're looking at a couple different players here. We got Noah Kim, the redshirt junior, as QB1, Kateen Hauser as the redshirt freshman QB2. You got some youth there in the quarterback position. You got Trey Mosley, the redshirt senior, out there at wide receiver. You got Christian Fitzpatrick, the wide receiver Z. He is a redshirt transfer from Louisville. You got Montori Foster, the junior out there at WRX, and you got Nathan Carter, the redshirt sophomore, the transfer from UConn, and Jalen Berger, the transfer from another Big Ten school at Wisconsin, sitting there at RB1. So they got the players, they have the tools. Do they have the confidence? Do they have the chemistry? A lot of this stuff has yet to be determined. We will see when they face off against Central Michigan, I believe tomorrow. So that's going to be a test. That's going to be a test. Obviously,
a week from tomorrow.
They want to be a week from tomorrow. My bad. So they're looking forward to getting the job done and making sure that they can assert themselves as a dominant force in the Big Ten and in the college football landscape. So the Sparties are going to have to do that. They're going to have to get the job done. And I'm not going to say a whole lot on that side of things just because I got to see them play. I got to see them perform. Contrary to the NFL, if you didn't know this, surprise, you don't have preseason games where you can test out all your new guys, your new transfers, maybe even some of your redshirted guys. You can't do that in college football. Game one is game one. That will be, acclimated. That will be attributed to your final roster at the end, or your final record at the end of the year. So these games matter. These early games matter. And I think, I'm going to go out on a limb again, that the Chips are going to want to beat Michigan State at their place. So it's a lot to unfold. They have a lot to redeem. They have a lot to prove to the Michigan State fan base. And I would say expectations are sky high for me as a Michigan State fan, because I'm expecting them to come out swinging. And we can't expect a miracle season like we had in 21. We were undermanned. We didn't have chemistry. Mel was very new, and they got lucky. They got lucky with that 11-2, and they had the tools. They had the running back that I won't even say. Uh,
It
but
hurts.
and you
Hurts
could
to
say
say.
that was the cornerstone of that offense, and you could be right in saying that. With Kenneth Walker the third there, but those players are gonna come and go. Those players are so good where they're not gonna come and they're not gonna stay at the college level. They're gonna move on and they're gonna get into the draft to start making that bread. So we can't expect them to stay, but we can expect a somewhat of a replacement to some extent. Maybe not an exact carbon copy of what Kenneth Walker III was, but something to that effect, something that can hold a candle to it. And that's what I'm expecting this year from State.
Yeah, another huge loss, Keon Coleman. And if you
That's
can't
right.
produce results, then these guys are going to seek employment and opportunities elsewhere with programs that are eating at the big boys table currently. Because, like you said, they're moving on to the NFL quick, trying to get their name, moving up in the draft stock, and yeah, it happens quick now with the way NIL and the transfer portal has opened up. Um, I had some coworkers here at Eastern, though. They asked me the other day, "Who are you rooting for, Chips or Sparties?" And man, I had to think about it for a second. Both rivals of my schools, but I said I was going for the Chips, baby. I gotta go. I'd love to see the upset, and then if Eastern plays Central, it only makes us look even better. So
Yeah, you're in a tough spot, Cody.
I am. I
One,
am.
you're my buddy. Two, you're an Eastern Michigan Eagle, and you're a Michigan Wolverine. Puts you in a really tough spot to root for the Sparties in really any scenario. Maybe against Ohio State, we might have you, but yeah, I see where you're coming from there, buddy.
Yeah, Eastern. We don't say fire up chips. We say flip the chips, and it's not
Hey,
flip.
well, you have a lot to fight for down there in Ypsilanti, and the Eagles are expecting big things too. We're going to be talking about them here in a future episode. They will be in the spotlight, and I'm excited to see what the Eagles can do. I'll be honest with you. Eastern Michigan, they have proven to be a threat in the past, and they're just they're right there. They're right there on being really good, and possibly with all this super conference stuff happening, with all this talk of conference carousels and things of that nature, you never really know what a D1 school could kind of evolve from maybe a mid-tier conference into a super conference. So, whatever the future holds is really yet to be determined, and all they can do is win games, and that's just going to add to their stock of being added to a Big Ten or to an ACC or something like that. So you never know. It's
Most
basically conference of choice. It's conference of choice nowadays. You don't have to be in that geographical location anymore. You just have to fit the bid. That's it.
Hey man, I don't want to get started on what Eastern Michigan football could be this year. I'll find a time to talk about it. We don't have time tonight, but hey, watch out for the Eagles. They're a sleeper team, man. Only Michigan team to win a bowl game last year. So I'll just leave it at that for now. Let's go back to the Big Ten currently as it stands and look at some of these other teams, all ranked, by the way. The other guys, as I like to put them. We got two on the East, Ohio State and Penn State. And then on the West side of things, this is the last year that the Big Ten is going to be upholding these conferences, by the way. So kind of neat to look at it this way. One last time on the West, we have Wisconsin and the Iowa Hawkeyes. So John's going to start it off with Penn State. That's who he picked. He made me take the Buckeyes. So I'm sorry to my fellow Wolverine fans, but I'm going to give a little love to the Buckeyes and their wide receiving core, but start us off with Penn State, Joe.
Yeah, we got Drew Allar, the sophomore, coming in at quarterback. We're expecting him to do great things. Obviously, Penn State, they have a lot to prove. They're 11-2 in 2022, and they're expected to do, maybe somewhat better. Obviously, the line, as you can see there on the screen, at 9.5. We're expecting that to, I guess, if we want to go out on a limb, I'm going to say let's take the over there. Get us to 10 wins. That's all we ask. Get us to 10 wins, and we hit that over. Obviously, it's still going to be asking a lot, but Matt Franklin, he keeps a really tight ship over there in Pennsylvania. So we got to be expecting him to have some tricks up his sleeve when it comes to his personnel. Nicholas Singleton, the sophomore RB1, we're expecting him to do good. He's going to be backed up very well with Alan Catron, rather, the sophomore too. So you got some young guys there in the backfield. You're expecting them to do good things. You want them to have some longevity going into their upperclassmen seasons. Given that they play as a junior and maybe stay as a senior, you never know. With some of these guys, they might want to improve their draft stock by staying even later. And if you can get these guys to stay and have solid depth, that they're young and you can be building off of a young player to then go to another young player. God forbid there's an injury or anything that happens. You want to have someone to turn to that you can build. So they're looking for that as well. You got the redshirt senior, the transfer from Kent State, Dante Cephas, out there at the wide receiver position. And you got Harrison Wallace III, the redshirt sophomore, out there as well. And you also got a slot in the Penn State offense. You got Keandre Lambert-Smith. He is a senior. So you're going to have some upperclassmen out there on the edges, but you're going to be, you got to have faith in those upperclassmen to bring in some goodwill to those lower classmen guys that are going to be coming up. So you got to have a good mix. And I think Penn State has a really good mix this year with their personnel. And I think that they can really make it work. I think they can. I really think they can. I have faith in Penn State this year. Not a Penn State fan either by any stretch of the word, but I'm expecting big things. I think Matt Franklin is and has done a great job out there at Penn State. So I'm going to take the over 9.5. Get me to 10 wins.
Hey, I like it. Penn State fans, they're drinking that Drew Allar Kool-Aid. I know that for a fact. Singleton and Allen, though, they're the real deal. That's a explosive backfield who can hurt you. All right.
Definitely.
Guess it's my turn for the Buckeyes here. 10.5
Oh.
wins, huge expectations. I think somehow they are, again, the betting favorites to win the Big Ten over Michigan. Don't understand that in the slightest, but, that's what it was last year and the year before, so why not make it a three-peat in every sense of the word? And, hell, I'm going to take the under here because Ryan Day, I just don't think he's the guy. I thought he was at first, but the way Michigan has come in and got into his head over the last 2 years, it's baffling to me. And then his kicker misses the field goal against Georgia, a chance to get to the natty, and he just can't get it done. And I can't imagine a guy like Urban Meyer or some of his predecessors would have been producing those kind of results. And if you're a Buckeye fan, it's just simply not acceptable. You should see some of these Ohio State fans in the college groups that we're a part of. They're in shambles right now. Their arguments are pretty much delusional. They're going back on everything that they've kind of said. Don't talk about the past. When Michigan would host the winning series record. So they just really don't know what to do with themselves. 2 years of whooping by the Wolverines, and they're looking for answers. If they don't get to 11 wins, I'm sure some of the fans will be calling for Ryan Day's heads because expectations are just sky high there in Columbus, and they're at the cream of the crop. But, I said this early on a couple weeks ago. I called for the Fighting Irish to get the win against Ohio State, to build on, what they did last year. Marcus Freeman is going to shock the world, shock the Buckeyes, hand them an early loss. And I don't have them over my Wolverines. So that right there, I'm going to be stuck at 10 at least. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the under. Penn State could surprise them. It is in Columbus, though, so I'm going to take the Buckeyes in that game. But I think they're going to have their struggles down the road with no clear QB1 there to spread the ball out to these talented wide receivers and Marvin Harrison Jr., who could be the best wide receiver to come out of college football that we've seen in some time. That dude is a freak athlete, and if he wasn't knocked out of that Georgia Ohio State game, I might have to side with the Buckeyes here and say they get her done and win that game, and it doesn't come down to a field goal. And then you got Ime Abuka right there, and Fleming, Julian Fleming, and those are all guys who will be, like I just said about Michigan's running backs, NFL talent. So they'll be able to hurt you, but without a clear QB1, the battle is still going on between Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. I just don't think they're going to be able to have the success that they normally do. What was the question posed to Michigan fans with JJ and Cade battling out? If you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. So I think that's going to be Ohio State's issue this year.
Yeah, that's big facts, man. I think you got to make it's really tough, too. It's really tough to run an offense with dual quarterbacks. So you basically have two QB1s that you're kind of interchanging out, and they have to be in tune with the rest of the offense simultaneously because likely you're switching them in and out in the same series. And that proved to be abysmal, proved to be bedlam for Michigan when they were going between Cade and JJ. So if we see that, that could be a big hole in the matrix. It could be a black hole in the Ohio State offense and their entire program if they don't have a selected QB1 going into week 0. That could be the case. And I think it goes to say, too, historically, Vegas is going to root for Ohio State. They are expecting them and Michigan. They're expecting Michigan more. They're expecting the entire ensemble of everything to regress to the mean. Okay, historically, going back 5-10 years, Ohio State was a team against Michigan. We're going to regress to that mean. We're just going to ride that mean, and we're going to ride that average to return to where it was and where it currently still stands. And I think that's unfortunate. I think that's poor thinking. I think that's poor management of your education, of everything that's been presented to us. But it's the safe bet because it's like, okay, well, we could see both these teams are rebuilding. They're getting some new personnel in there. We're going to regress to the mean at some point. That's a safe bet for Vegas. I think it's a strong bet to bet against Ohio State this year because of all the things mentioned. But Ohio State is somewhat put on a pedestal. We've seen that happen too, where they're similar to they're basically the Alabama of the Big Ten, as far as Vegas and other insiders are going to look at them as the team in the Big Ten, which is unfortunate because that's not the case and it shouldn't be the case. And I agree with you. I think Ryan Day, if he doesn't have a good season this year, there's going to be Ohio State fans calling for his head. I think that goes without saying.
Definitely. All right, let's move over to the west side of the Big Ten and out of the top 10 rankings as Michigan is number 2. My apologies. Ohio State is number 3, and Penn State sitting there at number 7. So we're going to stay in the top 25, but move to number 19. Luke Fickell's Wisconsin, 8.5 wins. I'll let you take this one. Luke Fickell, he flirted with Michigan State 5 years ago or so, sometime around there, but held on, stuck it out in Cincinnati, made a CFP appearance. And now he's taking his talents to the Big Ten, up to Madison, Wisconsin, and they're preaching a new look offense. They want to, spread it out more than they have in the past.
Yeah, I like Luke Fickell. I liked him at Cincinnati. I think they get to 9 wins. I think they do if they play their cards right. Now, Cody, we're not going to get in the nitty-gritty with each of these teams, either Iowa or Wisconsin, because we got to see how these teams perform. There's a lot of new personnel. You got a dynasty shift with Luke Fickell coming in there and basically, cleaning house, bringing some of his own guys in there, maybe keeping some of the old guys there. But we can't predict the future. We can't predict the future as much as we wish we could. We have to see these teams perform. We have to see the players play. And then we can make analysis based on that. Okay, well, they played this good against this team. Okay, now we can say, oh, well, then maybe they can. This guy can really attack them. Their second level, their linebackers are just going to get slaughtered. Their offensive line is going to get them to level 2. So that's the kind of conversation that we can have going into week 2, week 3. Give it a couple weeks. Give it week 0, week 1, and then we kind of get into week 2, week 3, and start painting some pictures there. But yeah, I like him getting to 9 wins just at first glance. I like Luke Fickell and his ability to command a team and to create a team that has an environment of strong team chemistry. which is all very important things. So I'm expecting them to do great things. I'm expecting Luke Fickell to make a splash in the Big Ten as a coach, and I think they're going to do well.
I like it. I like Luke Fickell as well. I did not want him to go to Michigan State when those talks were happening because I thought it would have been a great hire. And they ended up going with Mel Tucker, and he's produced some great things and some not so great things as of yet. So
It's
the
true.
case is still out on that one. But I will briefly mention the Iowa Hawkeyes. They're sitting there at the 8-win total. They got a new guy, a familiar guy at QB1. Cade McNamara has taken his talents to Iowa, switched the blue for a black. Now he's donning the black and yellow over there, and he's going to be playing a lot different kind of football. He wants to bring the passing style to Iowa, but we seen what that team was last year, and they're not going to drastically change overnight with the additions of Cade. And Cade brought his tight end with him, Eric All. He had some electric plays at Michigan, notably a game winner against Penn State in Happy Valley. So those two guys got that win in Happy Valley the last time we went there. So I have to thank them for that. But I think you're making a good call by not rushing our judgments on any of these teams in the West, because we know how crazy it was last year with Wisconsin, Minnesota, Purdue, all kind of just fighting for it at the last minute. All these crazy scenarios had to happen for each team to make it. Purdue ends up making it, but not really. It's going to be chaotic, and no one is going to really separate themselves, I don't think. And I think that the Hawkeyes are going to struggle to change their identity overnight like they want to, and they're gonna punch you in the mouth, make it hard for you to score, but I don't think they're gonna be letting you up either at the same time. So I'm gonna go under 8.
Going under eight for the Iowa Hawkeyes. I don't think that's really too crazy of a bet to pick that there. So obviously, you expect great things from a gritty team like Iowa. They're historically a gritty team. They're a burr in your side kind of team, a team that can cover. So you're looking at those types of aspects. But in this scenario, with this type of bet, you don't just need to cover. You got to win the game. So that's going to help the bettors out, and that's going to help that 8-win mark there for the under bettors. So I like that pick. I think I'd probably concur, and I would bet the same thing. Bet the same thing on that. Don't have a lot of faith in Cade at a new place. Obviously, we've seen what he can do in his good games. We've also seen what he can do in his bad games. So the jury's still out there. You can't really compare apples to apples, because you got Caleb Williams that transition. He's seen some issues out there at USC that maybe he didn't see at Oklahoma. So you can't really just say, oh, well, this quarterback's going here. He's going to be a one-size-fits-all kind of guy. He's going to fit in perfectly like a glove, and he's going to perform to the highest degree. You can't say that. It's not a one-size-fits-all league.
Definitely.
So it's interesting, man. And I think it's a blessing, too, that we're getting rid of the East and West, just because that's going to open everything up for especially for the new teams coming in. Now you even got Washington and Oregon possibly in talks with joining the Big Ten too. That's still developing. Nothing, I don't think, has been signed on that yet. Not etched in stone quite yet, but I think that's kind of where we're headed with the crumbling of the Pac-12 before our eyes. So.
Yeah, the data line's all but signed, so it's going to be a new look Big Ten as of next year with all those Pac-12 teams coming over, and it's going to be chaos, but we're here for it. We're gonna embrace it. We're gonna love it. And yeah, that's what we've kind of been doing as we count down till kickoff here. And just because we're kind of running a little bit over on our conversations here, I'm just going to throw up this one graphic from the week from the Gin College podcast. As you guys know, been counting down from day 7, throwing up some college football legends with their jersey numbers who correspond to how many days we have left, and had to give MSU Spartan Plaxico Burris some love. It's the alternate graphic. Champ Bailey made the final cut for the page, but we had to give Plaxico some love. He's making a couple Michigan receivers look silly in the pictures here on the screen. I think one of them is Desmond Howard. So Plexico was a problem, man, and he was a special player for his Spartans and went on to do special things in the NFL. So just any quick words for your boy?
Yeah, Plaxico Burress, one of the best players to wear number 4 coming through Michigan State. You can see him there with those crispy Reebok jerseys there from the late 90s. And he was a hell of an athlete. He went on to play in the NFL and do some great things in the NFL, playing for the Steelers and doing his thing out there. So I'm excited for football to start. I don't think that really has to be overstated any more than it has, but I'm going to overstate it because it's that important. And yeah, it could be a up in the air question. Is it him or Champ? I don't think we need to have that conversation. I think each of them did respectable things for both of their respected universities, and I don't think that really needs to even be a competition there in that sense of it. But it is an interesting thing to bring up. Plaxico was a great athlete, and he looked great in green and white.
Yeah, those are some clean images there. Would look great framed in the man cave for you, man.
Yeah, bring them back. Bring back the Reebok jerseys. I love it. Even do a mock of the Reebok jerseys. Maybe
Right.
do a collab with them. I know Nike's in there, and they basically cleaned house as far as the apparel goes. But the people need to see some vintage jerseys. It
Right.
just
It'd be
kind of
cool
needs to happen.
Reebok were able to get the permission to sell like these. Oh, bring back some retro lines or something. That'd be pretty cool.
And Reebok, they just brought back their old logo as their main logo. It's the swooshes there. So
I love it.
that's exciting shit too.
That is very exciting. All right. Well, we are getting close to the end of the show. It's getting late. Usually at this time of the week, we have the mullet of the week segment. We're going to give John some time to grow the flow. Because just like a watch clock never moves. A tightly observed mullet can't grow. It can't be allowed to have the freedom that it needs to be. What mullets embody. So we're gonna take the spotlight off for a minute, and we're gonna reassess in about a month or so. See how it's looking, and look at some other great mullets in college football history. But we're gonna replace it with another segment for you guys. I like to call it Pick or Pass. Gonna go rapid fire, 4 games. John can pick 2, and he can pass me 2. And they're just quick, simple picks, pretty much 50-50. One is a little bit less, but we'll get right into it. First 2 are week 0, and the second 2 are week 1. So get right into it here. Notre Dame against Navy, 2 p.m. this Saturday. Can't wait. You get to watch Sam Hartman, his first time in a Fighting Irish jersey. As you can see him there. The boys look excited, and they're 21-point favorites against the midshipmen. Are you picking this, or are you passing it to me?
I'm gonna pass this one to you.
Oh, man, love it. So right now on DraftKings, there is an odds boost for any college football pick. Go to Notre Dame, Navy, 50% boost, lock it in, -21. I think it's so low because it's a service academy, but they're actually going through a transition themselves. Their longtime head coach retired. He's moving on, and I don't think people are really understanding what Sam Hartman is going to do for Marcus Freeman and this Notre Dame offense. All day, 21 is a lock. Notre Dame against the midshipmen. Put it in. All right.
Wow, 21 points. You're just like that. Just take -21.
Yeah,
Very
man. It might be
adamant.
21-0, and Sam might take a seat and might pass it off to their talented running backs. So I'm feeling good about the Fighting Irish this year. And I'm not a Notre Dame fan by any means. They're a vintage rivalry of the Wolverines, so take that for what it's worth. Moving on to another Week 0 game, the Heisman winner from 2022, Caleb Williams, over under 311 yards passing versus San Jose State. That's pretty lofty, but it's San Jose State. That is who my Eagles beat in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. So USC Trojans should do a lot worse, right? You think?
Yeah, you would think so. Obviously, we just talked about Caleb Williams. I'm not a big Caleb Williams guy. I'm kind of against the USC Trojans as a whole, as an organization, just because what they've embodied, and there's some sour tastes in my mouth with everything that's happened with USC and just how Vegas and others, they put them on a pedestal, and they basically set them aside and put them in a higher spot than they should be. So I like the under here. Give me under 311 and a half yards, passing yards against San Jose State. And, that could be close to the line, could be potentially not. But, you're coming out week 0, and sure, the ball is probably going to be passed from Caleb Williams quite frequently. But am I expecting big things? No, I'm not. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna take the under there, and I could get smoked. It could get smoked. It could pass for 400 plus, and it is what it is. That's a bet that I can gracefully lose though, and be fine with it, and be like, wow, he showed out. He proved me wrong, and he had to work for it. This isn't a cupcake bet where it's easy to take the over and basically set it and forget it and go to sleep. You're gonna be watching this game quite intently, making sure Caleb Williams is getting those passes completed. Passes for attempts. He's getting those numbers up, QBR ratings through the roof. So he's gonna have to play a hell of a game to get over that mark, regardless of who he's playing against. So I'm gonna take the under.
I love it because 311, that's a lot. It's week 0. I could see him, being some quick, efficient drives where he doesn't have to just run up the passing numbers. He could throw 4 tutties and 225 yards and call it a day. So I think the under is the smart play here.
Yeah, and obviously in the sour taste have to be attributed to Lincoln Riley and his move, and basically his shift from Oklahoma and that whole organization. We're never going to let that rest. We're never going to let that down, and no one should forget that move, because he basically took and stripped Caleb Williams and himself from the Oklahoma Sooners program and moved him to the West Coast, which pretty soon they'll be in our own backyards playing football games and in conference play, which I'm very excited for. But yeah, I like betting against these teams that Vegas puts on a pedestal, just because I think it's an automatic advantage for the bettors. And I think that's something you got to capitalize on as a bettor. Capitalize on the teams that Vegas puts on a pedestal, because that just means that they're going to have even higher potential to get upsetted. So that's kind of my philosophy going into college football betting this year, is take the teams that might appear to be locks, take them with a grain of salt, because nothing's a lock. Lock doesn't exist. It really doesn't. It's like a unicorn out there. So I'm gonna stick to my guns with that, and I'm gonna hopefully ride that philosophy into the sunset, and might put it on my tombstone.
I like it. I like it. Let's see if you have the same type of mentality when looking at this next graphic. Um, we got another Pac-12 team here in Utah. Oh, my apologies there. Need to transition back to the graphic. It's kind of lost in the ether here. All right. Okay, there we go.
We're going nutty with the graphics out here in the GCP.
A lot of moving parts over here. 2 guys wearing many hats, trying to bring you a high quality, great content show. So moving on, another Pac-12 team. This is going to be week 1 a week from now, about 7 p.m. Florida versus Utah. Pick or pass the Utah money line here. Minus 205, a little bit more of a lock than these other 2 we just discussed. We're both big Cam Rising fans. Number 7, their QB1 there. And I'm curious, are you picking or passing?
I'm going to pick this one. Give me Utah money line. Smash that pick. If you could get close to a lock, then this is it. Cam Rising, he is a force to be reckoned with. He's been with the program. He knows the program. He knows the players, both the players that are existing and that have learned and grown with him, and the newcomers. Both of your wide receivers, your wide receiver X and your wide receiver Z, Money Parks is a junior, and Devon Vela is a redshirt junior out there on the edge. You got a freshman out there, Mikey Matthews, sitting there in the slot. So you got options out there. And we know that Cam Rising is a threat not only through the air, but also on the ground. He reminds me a lot of a undersized Josh Allen, but his gameplay is nothing short of what Josh Allen can produce for the Buffalo Bills. I'm excited for Cam Rising to show out this year. This is another thing for Cam Rising. He's a red shirt senior this year for Utah and the Utes, and you mentioned unfinished business. We talked about Michigan Wolverines and their unfinished business. Utah and the Utes are in the same boat. They have unfinished business written all over their locker room. So I'm expecting them to do a lot of great things and come out with a big win against Florida.
Yeah, I love it. Reigning Pac-12 champions coming in ranked 14 in the nation, so a little respect is being put on their name. But when you look at that line there, a team like Florida who really underperformed last year, kind of going through a transitional period, I think this is definitely closer to a lock than what Vegas is leading at.
100%.
All right, bring us to our last pick or pass. John picked the last one. So that means I have to pick the last one. The Nebraska Cornhuskers begin the Matt Rule era, and they play Minnesota next week, 8 o'clock a week from now, Thursday night. Early Big Ten matchup, and we'll learn a lot about both these teams, what they might be after this game. Nebraska plus 7.5. I'm taking the points, taking the Huskers. I think Matt Rule will bring a little something from his just brief stint in the NFL and the Panthers, and try to bring back what Nebraska football used to be. In Minnesota, on the other hand, they're kind of trending downwards. PJ Fleck is going through something. The boat's not rowing like it once was, and you don't have Mo Ibrahim, and it's going to just look a lot different. So I love Nebraska, the points. I could see this coming down to like a field goal game, and then you're safe either way. So I think this is a decently safe pick, and I'm kind of hoping for Minnesota's downfall a little bit. I'll be honest with the viewers, because week 2, my Eastern Michigan Eagles going into Minnesota. So I need the Golden Gophers to be roughed up a little bit, licking their wounds when my Eagles come to town. And a guy named Samson Evans runs all over them. So
Tell you what I'm excited about. You know what? And you got the 7.5 points there for the Cornhuskers. Give them the points, take the points, run with it, and you got barely minus money on that one. Basically a standard bet. Basically your minus 110 standard bet. I would go out on a limb to say throw them money line in a parlay. Take Nebraska money line in a parlay going into Minnesota and stunning them in week 0. I'm excited for that. I think that could very easily happen, especially under Matt Rule and the weapons that Nebraska has. They've kind of been looked at from the outsiders, and by the outsiders I mostly mean Vegas and the onlookers of fans of the Big Ten that basically look at Nebraska as a fringe team. They're just basically worthless, right? So you can kind of look at them as that, and they might even start to fall back into that position depending on how they come out and play in week 0, but they have the potential to have a high ceiling as well. So that's what we're expecting. We're expecting those fringe teams, and that again is an attribute to my philosophy of going with the underdog, especially in the early weeks, because surprises can happen and seasons can be altered in week 1, week 0, week 2, the very early stages of the season. Team dynamics and outlooks rather for the rest of their season can be altered rather quickly. So I'm expecting big things out of Nebraska this year too. There's going to be those fringe teams that kind of they got to show out, because once the Big Ten is a true super conference without divisions, without the East and West, they're going to have to rise to the top, and there's going to be a fight for identity for those teams that have been in the Big Ten forever. And you got these teams coming from the West that are going to search for their own identity. They're going to have to fight even harder. But it's going to be impressive, man, because there's going to be that mentality of, you're from the Pac-12. Okay, you got a game, say Nebraska and USC. Okay, you don't belong in my conference. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't have the B1G on your jersey. You shouldn't have that. So there's going to be some animosity for these teams coming in next season. But I think that's already being felt right now, and you're going to see these fringe teams in the Big Ten fighting for position right now while they still have the division format. So I'm excited to see how these fringe teams play out in 23.
Yeah, and I'm kind of excited to see how that dynamic you're speaking on plays in the future in these fringe teams, the middle of the pack teams, because right now in the Power Five system, the SEC is looked at by far the most dominant conference because it's been Alabama mainly. Georgia, LSU sprinkled in there, but consistently bringing home national championships. They've eluded the Big Ten for the most part, besides Ohio State in the last couple of decades. So you were only really looking at the upper echelons of these conferences when we're ranking them and tiering them. But as we move towards more of a super conference model, a two conference or maybe three with the Big 12, I think we'll start to look more at all your teams, the middle of the pack. How do your bottom feeders play against all these other guys? Because with so many conferences right now, we aren't really able to do those kind of things justice, and we don't get those kind of matchups all the time. But it's going to start being looked at a lot more as we move into this new structure of college football.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm looking forward to, especially the Big Ten, fighting for position, fighting for identity. All these things have been mentioned. What are you going to do as a team? If you're a fringe team, chances are you're a fringe team. You have that identity right now. What are you going to do to kind of blend in? Because you want to have something similar to the SEC model that you have in the Big Ten, or that you want to have something in the Big Ten similar to what they have in the SEC. And that is what you alluded to as far as having a more spread out average of skill and talent amongst the conference compared to the outliers that exist in the Big Ten. You kind of have, your upper echelon over here, and then way over here on the spectrum, you have your fringe teams and your trash teams that are historically not bringing home any hardware, not contending for the college football playoff, and not really, playing in any prominent bowl games. So you're looking for those teams to rise to the occasion, play for something, and find yourself at least towards the middle of the pack and just start improving your program, because that's going to be opportunity not only for the players but especially the coaches and personnel to make that happen and to create a legacy of their own. There's stuff to fight for, and they have nothing to lose. The only direction they can go is up. So they have a lot to look forward to going into this season and the season in 24.
Well said, my friend. Well, it's been a great show. It's getting pretty late, well past both of our bedtimes, I think. So
Way past my bedtime.
I think we should wrap this son of a gun up here.
Yeah, let's do it. Cody, give me your last words for the people going into kickoff.
Hey, next time we talk to you guys, we're going to have football played, stats in the stat book, and final results to talk about. So we're looking forward to that, and just enjoy the week 0. Enjoy the low-pressure games. Some good matchups will come out of it, and some teams you don't really get to watch when all the big boys are playing. So just sit down, relax, watch some college football. Maybe take our advice in the pick or pass, or not. It's up to you. That is ultimately your choice. So, yeah, just enjoy the weekend. Might have some bat slips for you guys. Definitely going to have some countdown graphics and lots of other content coming your way. So, be looking at the Gen College podcast page.
That's right. Yeah, we'll be looking at the pick or pass as well, going into the subsequent episodes of the GCP. And we'll have the beautiful thing about the next show is we're going to have a lot more to go off of. It's going to be a lot less speculation. It's going to be a lot less guessing of, I think this guy's going to, play well against this guy. Listen, we don't want to get too lost in the weeds. Yes, it's fun to speculate. Yes, it's fun to infer, but to have other things to go off of, have real life hard evidence and statistics and, objective evidence from the games and the gameplay in the early stages is what we need as our building blocks to go off of in subsequent episodes. So we're excited for football to be here. We're done talking about it. We're ready to watch it. We're ready to jump into the inferno, and we want you guys to jump into the inferno with us. We're excited to have that happen.
Come on in.
Come on in. Come on in. The water's fine. Be sure to check us out on our website, ginsportsnetwork.com, for all of our content, all of our IG posts, everything, articles, you name it. It's on the website at Gin Sports Network. We're on IG at Gin College for the GCP. And make sure to get us on Facebook. Brand new Facebook page. The Gin College Podcast is on Facebook. So check us out on all platforms and check us out through all the links that are in our link tree. We'll see you guys here next time on the GCP. But for now, I'm John J. II here with Cody Almasy. Have a great night.